Meanwhile, those of you who are in the room right now, let us know the city you're dialing in from. So Karan from Mumbai, good to see you. Good to see you, Pallavi, as well. Welcome, everyone. All right. So we are close to 250 attendees in the room right now. So I'm going to kickstart with the introductions now. Welcome, everyone. Welcome again. My name is 𝗀𝗍𝗃𝗃. I am one of the co-founders and directors at SEED Global Education. We are a higher education firm that helps connect students with top-tier universities like the George Washington University, as we are doing today. I have two amazing guests with me today. This is going to be an extremely interesting topic because India is a country of sports fanatics, if I can put it that way. We love our cricket. We are falling more and more in love with football, soccer, badminton, even kabaddi as well. So a lot of exciting things happening in the country in the domain of sports. And this topic, I believe, is something which is extremely close to the hearts of the lot of attendees that we are seeing in this session today. Before I introduce our speakers, and I'm going to make it a very engaging introduction as well, I want to run our first poll for the evening. I want to ask the audience their intention to study a business master's in the US. It could be any of the business master's program, need not just be sports management. Do let us know your interest or intention to study a business master's program in the United States. The poll is live on your screen right now. So just let us know if you are very, very interested, you are really keen on studying a business master's in the US, you're indifferent, so you're somewhat interested and not interested kind of thing, or if you're not interested at all. So let us know your interest or intention level to study a specialized business master's program in the US. I'm going to keep this poll open for 30 seconds. So please let us know your interest or intention to study a business master's program in the US. All right. Okay, I see the responses still coming in. We have over 100 responses already, so I'm still going to wait for another 5-10 seconds for the people to respond. In the meanwhile, while you're responding to this poll, you can possibly see Dr. Delpy Neirotti in a cab with a mask on. That's because she's in Beijing attending the Winter Olympics over there. So we are going to get live feed from there on how the Winter Olympics are going and how things are working out over there. So we are going to hear from her very soon. But in the meanwhile, before we go to her and we go to Susan to talk about the George Washington University, their business school, plus their sports management program and other programs, please let us know your interest level in pursuing a business master's program in the US. All right. With this, I am going to end the poll and share the results as well. So if you can see on the screen, around 45% are highly interested. They are really looking forward to pursue a business master's specialized business program in the US. Around 48%, so another 50% are currently fence sitters. So they are somewhat interested, but undecided possibly. And 7% are not interested. And these are the people who have possibly come just for the topic of sports management. So good to know that. Thank you again for responding to this poll. This is highly interesting. As you know, possibly you understand, and this is my message to the audience, you have come here to understand about the opportunities, the money-making machine that sports management today is. And I'm sure you're very keen to hear from Dr. Neirotti. But as you can see, she's still in her cab, getting to her hotel room in Beijing. She is attending the Winter Olympics in Beijing. And we want to hear from her and really get insights from her on what the entire experience has been over there. So we are going to hear from her in a bit. She's going to reach her hotel room in the next 4 to 5 minutes. But in the meanwhile, I want to invite Susan Kessler, who's the Director of Graduate Business Admissions at George Washington University School of Business, to introduce the George Washington University School of Business, give us an overview of the school, about the wonderful programs that they have. She's going to take the next 10 minutes possibly to do this. And post that, by that time, Dr. Narotti is going to be back at her hotel room in Beijing, and we will hear from her about her experience in Beijing. Does that sound fair?
Can I jump in? And I just want to welcome everybody and apologize that the transport took a little bit longer, but start thinking about any questions you may have for me about life in the loop. So I'm here and happy to answer those along with the presentation that I'll be giving in just a little bit.
Awesome.
But now I want my colleague Susan to share more information about GW.
Thank you, Dr. Neirotti, and welcome, Susan. Over to you. To the audience, you can post your questions for Dr. Neirotti to Susan as well in the Q&A box. I'll pick up the relevant ones to ask them post their presentations. Just a note over here, we have crossed the 300 attendee mark as of now. So great audience to see you today evening. And over to you, Susan.
Hi, Sanjay. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for having us this evening. I'm so incredibly excited for you all to have an opportunity to hear from our esteemed faculty, Dr. Delpy Neirotti, who is not only our faculty director for our Masters of Science in Sports Management program, but as you can see, an active participant in the life and the world of global sports management. So I'm very excited for you all to have a chance to hear from her in just a few minutes. In the meantime, I just wanted to share a little bit of background about our programs and who George Washington University is and where Dr. Narotti is stationed as a faculty member. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Can you all just give me a confirmation that you can see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Great, thank you so much. So just a couple quick things to go over today. We're going to be talking about the school, the programs, about our school, our programs, and our admissions process, just very in brief. The first thing you should note is that George Washington University is a United States school, and we're located in the heart of the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. Being in Washington, D.C., we are an urban campus located right downtown, only a few blocks from the IMF, the World Bank, IBM, the White House, as well as many of our nation's capital sports teams. Overall, the school has about 3,500 students with about an even split between our undergraduate population and our graduate population, as well as about a 50-50 split between our MBA enrollment and our other specialized master's programs. So a thriving graduate programs here. Also really excited to share with you all that for the second year in a row, we're ranked #1 for international business among US institutions, #2 worldwide, as well as for the second year in a row, ranked #2 for our diversity within our MBA programs. Now our diversity within GWSB isn't just limited to our MBA programs. We tend to see about a 50-50 split between our male to female populations in all of our master's programs. So really proud of the representation from around the globe and around the world and throughout our master's programs. The other thing to note is that graduate business study can be quite different than undergraduate study, and the amount of support and resources that a student's given. Here at GWSB, we really strive to provide white glove service for our students from day one. And that starts in the admissions office, which is my department. And my team runs all of the graduate and recruiting efforts across our master's programs and our MBA programs. In addition to that, you have dedicated career services to help support in your career goals, as well as networking and outreach opportunities with alumni from around the world and in the US. Student engagement is also incredibly important when it comes to graduate business education, something for you all to think about, whether you're thinking about pursuing education in the US or abroad, is really what does the engagement and networking opportunities look like. So we strive to provide a variety of opportunities for our students across the board. And that could look like co-curricular roundtables, alumni meet and greets, peer mentoring, or other social events. In addition, GW is happy to offer a variety of STEM-based programs. I know all of you are probably most interested in the sports field, but I did just want to mention that we have a variety of programs that do have STEM sponsorship, including our Masters of Accountancy, Business Analytics, Information Systems Technology, Finance, Interdisciplinary Business Studies, Project Management, Global MBA, and our Accelerated MBA programs. Across the board, we have 13 specialized master's programs within GWSB, including the program that Dr. Narotti runs, the Sports Management program. And it provides opportunities for students to obtain new skills, reskills, upskill. So whether you're thinking about promotion within a company or a field that you're already a part of, or thinking about completely starting over in a new field, there's lots of opportunities within graduate management education, not just with our school, but with any school that you might choose to pursue a business degree within. Additionally, within our programs, we have a variety of graduate certificates that kind of plug into many of our master's or MBA programs. Application, just to give you guys a little bit of background about our application process, and this is quite similar for most schools around the US right now, is a BA or a BS from originally accredited college or university, strong GPA. GMAT and GRE are optional right now, and that is the case for a lot of programs across the country. And then an English language test requirement. Applications it's pretty easy for graduate school, you guys. I would say, you know, if you're nervous about applying to graduate school or thinking about graduate school, just note that I think for many students, they find it much easier than applying for undergraduate because they're kind of at a more mature place in their career and the thoughts about what they want to do post-graduation. So in addition here, you can see on the right-hand side of the slides, application requirements include online application, university level transcripts, resume, letters of recommendations, all of the pretty straightforward things. And then our next upcoming deadline for applying, if you are interested in GWSB, you know, whether now or later on, is March 15th, 2022. We'd love to connect with you all if you have time and availability or interested in learning more about our programs. And you can connect with us at business@gwu.edu. We'd love to have an opportunity to get to know you all better and your interests. And that's about it from me. Again, I just wanted to give you all a quick overview of, you know, a little bit of background about the business school that Dr. Delpy Neirotti teaches at, who we are at George Washington University. So you have a little bit of background. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Sanjay.
Awesome. Thanks, Susan. Thanks for the introduction. And this is extremely interesting. I can see Dr. Narotti is just reaching her hotel room. Is that correct?
Yep, I'm in the elevator right now, so I'll be out in a
just
second.
A minute more. So in the meanwhile, I'll take the honor and the pleasure to introduce her formally. So please give me a moment. It's a long introduction. She's done so many things, so many interesting things that I'm going to take a minute to do this. Dr. Lisa Delpy Neirotti is the director of the MS in Sports Management program at the George Washington University School of Business. She's also the associate professor of sports management over there. She has been teaching sports management, event and tourism management at GW School of Business for more than 30 years now, or George Washington University for more than 30 years now. As I mentioned, she's currently at the Beijing Winter Olympics. In the past, she has attended 19 consecutive Olympic Games, 5 World Cups, and hundreds of other major sports events as a consultant, volunteer, or researcher. In 2004, she also served on the World Cup host committee in Washington, D.C. Beyond her responsibilities at George Washington University, Dr. Delpy Neirotti works with a number of sports event organizations, sponsors, and professional teams to conduct economic and market research studies, including at the Olympic Games, the World Cup, the BNP Paribas Open, the Citibank Tennis Tournament, the Rock and Roll Marathon, Marine Corps Marathon, college football ball games, amongst others. So as you can see, her profile is also in the chat box right now. You can read it over there. She's done some amazing things in the domain of sports management and has the experience and expertise to really tell you about the emerging opportunities in the domain of sports management. While she settles down on her chair and finds a comfortable place, let me also tell the audience that the National Basketball Association is hiring for a business development role in India. So as you can see, opportunities in sports management are opening up in India as well. We know there are a lot of IPL teams which require managers, experts as well. And I think Dr. Neirotti would be the perfect person to tell us about the various emerging opportunities in the domain of sports management and how money can be made over there. So with that, I hand it over to her. I think she's just finding her comfortable chair right now. So in the moment, I can take it over, and I'm just going to hand it over to her at this particular point.
Excellent. And welcome again, everyone. I'm trying to get onto my computer as well, but I'm going to just start here with the slides. So thank you for that introduction. And, you know, yes, I am here. I'm working for the International Olympic Committee. We're doing programs, behind the scene programs. It's called the Observer Program. And these are my 21st Olympic Games, consecutive Olympics. So they brought me over and I'm helping the future host organizers to really get a feel for what it's like to put on the games. And, you know, we're doing everything from cleaning and waste, seeing how they're disposing of all the waste that's generated during the games. We go look at event services. Although we can't see spectators right now in terms of they're in the outer loop and we're in the inner loop, we have been able to, you know, wave to them and kind of understand more about what the spectators are doing. We've gone through medical. It's just amazing, all the medicine that they have. And we're trying to figure out, make sure that they are giving that medicine to those in need instead of just disposing of it somehow. But there's just so many things you may not think about when you're a spectator at a major event that goes on behind the scenes. And so that's what I'm here helping Milano, Cortina, and Paris, and LA, and Brisbane. Those are the future host cities start preparing for their games. But without further ado, why don't we go ahead and start the presentation and we can have lots of questions afterwards. And
Sure. Are you able to see the presentation?
yep, sure can. Thank you. So I think that's just my name. We can go on to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I always like to start off the presentation asking, you know, when you think of sport, what words come to your mind? What do you think of? And if somebody wants to shout it out, that's great. You can put it in the chat. And then anybody want to be vocal? I know with this many people, it's hard to have somebody speak up, but then the other thing is, how do you spell sport? And normally in the English dictionary, it's S-P-O-R-T, but the focus that we put on is M-O-N-E-Y. It's all about money. And that's why we titled this, Show Me the Money. You know, we want anybody who comes through GW or any master's program, you really have to understand that sports is a business. Yes, there's passion. We all love it. But when you come into the business, you often have to put your passion aside and focus on, you know, revenue, because without revenue, you can't pay players, and then you won't have a product, because the players are the product that you're selling. It'll on the field play. So those are kind of concepts that I always start out explaining, and then we go into more depth about, you know, where the money does come from. Next slide, please. So this is the money tree. And, you know, again, put in the chat some revenue streams that you can think of that teams receive. How do sports organizations make money? Sponsors is great. What else? Tickets, yep, exactly. Advertising, merchandise, all these are great. There's a couple more. Okay, so IP falls under, you know, without the IP, the name of the team, the logos, you can't have merchant. Broadcast, there you go. Broadcast in India is actually the #1 revenue stream. And in the United States for the NFL, broadcast is the #1 revenue stream. But who can tell me what the #1 revenue stream is for Major League Baseball, for hockey, and for some basketball? Cards? I'm not sure. Cards. Attendees, attendance, tickets. Ticket sales are the #1 revenue stream for most sports, and that's why it was so challenging during COVID when you couldn't sell tickets. So in the United States, our soccer teams, our baseball teams, they were really hurting financially. Now, football only has 10 games a year, home games. So that's why tickets aren't that important compared to the other sports. And the broadcast for football is so much compared to the other leagues. But the trunk, we always say the trunk of the tree is ticket sales. Because if you don't have people in the stands, then they don't buy merchandise and they don't see the sponsors in the stands. So why would a sponsor want to sign in the stand if there's nobody in there? They don't buy food and beverage. And parking is another one. I'm not sure in India if you have parking, pay for parking, but in the United States, people like at the Washington, they just have a new name, Commanders, that's the Washington football team's new name is the Commanders. Parking goes for like over $50 just for one car to park in the lot. So that's on top of your expensive ticket and then all your food and beverage. So think of this money tree. Tickets is the trunk, and then everything else comes from the ticket sales. Again, broadcasting for some sports, including like Indian, all of cricket in India, broadcast is most essential for your revenue. And I know you have all your revenue, all your broadcast deals are due within the next 1 to 2 years. I think the Indian Cricket League is up first. IPL is up first. And so we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, next. All right. So we have here, as we talked about, you have media rights, and then you have both broadcast and digital. And right now, these are the contenders for the Indian media rights is 𝗔𝗯cie, and then Disney-owned Star Sports, Viacom. This is a new one because it's backed by Reliance. And then Amazon is a new player everywhere around the globe. And it's really, we weren't sure with Amazon coming in how it was going to impact broadcast rights for TV, for sports, but it's just been amazing. With so many players interested in sport programming, it's pushed it up even further than we expected. So broadcast rights should be going up for everybody because of the competition that Amazon's bringing to the table and other new players in the market. Then on top of that, you have sponsorships. So here at the Olympic Games, we always say NBC, that's the National Broadcast Corporation in the United States. They're the official sponsor. They're the rights holder for the US, but they pay like $1 billion over 12 years for the rights of the games. And they're the #1 sponsor of the Olympics globally because they pay so much. But then you have the top sponsors, the international sponsors, and then you have domestic sponsors. And I must tell you, it's these sponsors, I think they're the ones losing out the most of all the entities in the Olympic movement right now. Media still gets to show the games, the athletes still get to play, but sponsors, they don't have hardly any activation. And I know some sponsors are concerned about even showing advertisements around the sports programming because of concerns around China. So it's been hard on the sponsors, and I know they're just going to be happy to get to Paris and the next edition of the Olympic Games. But with that said, we've already talked about ticket sales, and then merchandise, and merchandise goes with the IP, right? So you license out your IP to people to make jerseys and coffee mugs and anything else you would like to buy. I'm going to kind of keep weaving in the Olympic story because I'm here and it's on my mind. I just went to a merchandise store up here. Everything is sold out. It's crazy. I can't buy anything to bring back to my family. Usually I bring a golf shirt or some shirt. Nothing is available. They underestimated the demand for merchandise. And so they're losing lots of money because people have nothing to buy. Just thought I'd share that, unique situation here. And then hospitality, as you know, involves suites at venues. It could be, big tents that companies buy at golf tournaments. It could be normally sponsors here at the Olympic Games bring guests and they entertain them, wine and dine them, and then take them to the event and then have a big hospitality afterwards. But none of that is happening right now. Next, please. So this is just an example of the amount of media rights and how they've grown over the years. And it's just expected to continue to grow with the new entrants of Amazon and others. It's hard to read, but cricket here in the overall media market, I think it's 3%. It's 2.9%. Football obviously accounts for most. Soccer accounts for most. And then American football is 17%. Next. This is sponsorship. And what I wanted to point out here is in Asia is a growth market in sponsorship. So these figures are before COVID. There's no reliable figures. They say that about $10 billion worth of make good for sponsorships because there were no sports events and limited TV. So there's been a lot of sports teams have had to make good on their sponsorship promises. And so they're working double for their sponsors right now. But all the research indicates that the sponsorship will get back on track. And the Super Bowl most recently showed that, the sponsors are still alive and well, and they're ready to spend money on sports because sports is the one thing that people won't, it's zap proof, we call it. They want to see it live. And if you're watching sport live, you can't record through, you can't fast forward through the advertisements. So that's why many people like sports, because they know that advertisements will be shown during the live programming. And then the other thing they like about it is that it attracts a lot of people. So if you have it on your channel, on your platform, you're getting people to your platform, and then hopefully they're going to stay on your platform for other programming. And the example, the Olympics on NBC had very low ratings leading up to the Super Bowl. Now, some people say it was because everybody was just focused on the Super Bowl, but others say that because so many people came and watched the Super Bowl and NBC was talking about the Olympics during the Super Bowl, that it encouraged more people to watch the Olympics afterwards, because there's a bump now in ratings for the Olympics. Next. Okay, so here we have just names of different companies, and there's figures anywhere from 384 billion up to 620 billion. I kind of stick with the 500 billion number. and that's globally, obviously. And here are some of the top names. These are mostly athlete representative groups, but they also do sports consulting. But all of these are global as well. Next, please. And then, factors that impact revenue streams. The research shows that younger people are not as interested in sports as older people are. And that's a real concern. I personally have not studied the data in India, but I know in Europe and in the United States, the younger generation is more interested in they like sports and they'll watch highlights and they'll follow it, but they won't sit and watch a whole game. And I'd love to know more if that's also happening. And I see some comments saying that it is happening in India too. So this is something that, whether it's Amazon or one of the other broadcasters, they're really going to have to think about how to keep the audience, or how to divide up the content and feed it to the younger audience to keep them interested and engaged in the sport. A lot of younger people are engaged in video gaming right now, esports, which is, we'll talk about later. But it's the same thing. I just did a presentation here in China on winter sports. And how do you keep young people interested in winter sports? What's the future of the Winter Olympic Games? Are you going to have enough people interested in competing in winter sports? And then it's expensive too. I mean, coming to sports events are not cheap. For a family of 4, I think they now have it like $400 as a minimum. So that's a very expensive night or family outing. There are a lot of new technologies that's impacting revenue growth. We're doing a study right now. One of the projects in our research class is to go and look at it's a new food and beverage technology. Since COVID, you're trying to sell food and beverage with cashless, and then it's also touchless. So people can just take their food and then swipe out without anybody else involved. But what we're finding is fans may not like that. And maybe because they get worried, they don't know how to do it, it's new technology, that they're not eating as much. It's a barrier for them to spend money. So our research is looking at, is this new technology helping or hurting revenues? Because of course the salespeople who are selling the technology is like, oh, this is the next best thing. It's going to really speed up lines. Nobody wants to wait in line. But the research isn't there to prove that right now. And then we also want to talk about gambling. This is more North America centric, that we just started gambling, sports betting, I should say. And there's lots of money coming in around that. So these betting houses are spending money as a sponsor of teams and leagues. People are paying money for the data that the leagues provide. So all the statistics. And then in the NCAA and the collegiate athletic space, some things that are happening is obviously the professionalization of athletes, where it's name, image, likeness. Now the athletes can go sell their name, image, likeness. If they sell T-shirts with their name on it, they get a cut of it. If there's a video game and their name and likeness is in that video game, they're going to get a piece of that. Before, college athletes were amateurs and they were not allowed to take money for any commercial activity. And we always have, as life goes on, there's always new corporate sponsor categories. And cannabis is a new sponsor category, and obviously cryptocurrency. So when you work in sponsorship, you really have to stay current on new business categories or products, and then find a way that you connect with those new business opportunities to be a sponsor. And next, please. Okay, so I'm just kind of doing an overview of the different job opportunities in the sports field. So obviously it's the management and marketing of athletes. And those agencies that I showed, that's primarily what they do. They represent athletes on and off the court. There's events, managing and marketing events, whether it's youth basketball tournaments or it's the Olympic Games and World Cup. Obviously, teams, there's minor league teams and there's professional teams, university teams in the United States and also other places. They all have university teams. And then facilities, right here in Beijing, I can't tell you how many beautiful sports facilities they have. And they try to fill those with either sports events or entertainment, whether it's concerts or other types of events. I actually was doing some work in India about 5 years ago. There was a university up in Mumbai that was looking at building a stadium, but then having the stadium also serve as classrooms and then to rent it for weddings. I know Indian weddings are quite large. So they were trying to make a multifunctional arena where it could both serve as a sports arena, a classrooms for large classes at the university, and then for an event space. So let's see here. And then there's organizations that would be like the U.S. Olympic Committee or the Indian Olympic Committee. It would be like the National Basketball Association or the Swim Association. And then one area that we haven't really touched on yet is the sporting good industry. And I really tell my students, this is a great opportunity to use your marketing management in selling sports products. And if you're in the marketing side of Nike or Adidas or Reebok, you are involved with sports teams, with athletes, because Nike is a major licensee of the NBA and the NFL, and they sell a lot of product. And so think about that opportunity as well. And then sports media. There are 4,000 people in the loop only for Olympic broadcast. So the Olympic broadcast system, OBS, is the main feed that goes out to around the world. So you don't have a separate Indian broadcast company here. Indian broadcast can just pick up the feed from the Olympic broadcast, obviously for some money. But it's just amazing to me how many media people are here. But back home, you have ESPN and all of these, even if you don't want to be on the production side, they have to sell commercials. They have to recoup the money that they are giving to teams and leagues. And the way they do that is they sell, obviously they sell commercial time, they sell advertisements. And, but as a salesperson, you're bringing those people to sports events, you're, it's basically sponsorship. And I think that's it. Next, please. Let's see. So the majority, when you look at a staffing chart of a sports team, and this is primarily in the United States. The largest number of employees are in revenue generating departments. So it starts off with ticket sales is the number one place where most people get hired at first. The second one is sponsorship, because sponsorship is divided in, you do research for sponsorship, you do the selling of sponsorship, and then you do the servicing of sponsorship. So there's a lot of positions in sponsorship. Social media is growing, so is data analytics. Excuse me. And there used to be only like one person per team for social media. Now the team's growing to at least 3 or to 5 people. And we have, we talked about data analytics. You have event and hospitality management, somebody who manages all the suites. And then you have team operations, which is on the player side. That's where you've got your scouts and you've got your coaches and you have your GM and those type of people. Next, please. This was just a case study. As I mentioned before, the younger demographic tends not to be so interested in professional sport. And the NFL did a deal with Nickelodeon, which is a kids television show. And they showed the Bears versus the Saints. And they had a huge, it was a win-win for both Nickelodeon and the NFL, because Nickelodeon had the highest ratings of people coming onto their channel to watch the NFL. And they taught, they put rules into the programming. They were trying to educate young people, but also make it fun and exciting for them to watch the programming. But it kind of felt like if I was going to do this, you'd have to do it on a regular basis. This was kind of a one-off, and it was successful, but they didn't do it again this year. So I don't know what the thinking was on that. Next, please. Oops. And then you have, I'm a big believer in people look at satisfaction if there's benefits minus cost. So I give the example, if I, spent $50 for parking, I go in and, it's crowded. I have to wait a long time to get into the stadium, to go through security and all of that. And then I go inside finally, and my kid wants to go to the bathroom, and I have to wait a long time to go to the bathroom. Then we go stand in line for a concession. I get a cold hot dog for $10. Then I go to my seat, and the guy next to me spills beer all over me. I mean, I'm giving you this terrible scenario, but so I've spent now $200 for myself and my son to go, and my team loses as well. So really, both the emotional and the physical and the financial costs outweighed the benefit. So when you're thinking from a manager's perspective, how can I make this experience better for my guests? And that's your guests or your fans. And again, from what I hear, tickets are not a major primary revenue driver for teams in India, but maybe they could be. I know you have a full stadium, but maybe if you elevate the service level, this is something that can elevate revenue as well. Next, please. And this is more relevant to United States, but there's a lot of money coming in from sports betting, and we're looking at, could we take a small percent of that and put it towards youth sports? Especially since COVID, there's been a decline in the number of kids that are participating in sports. So we're really trying to find ways to get the youth more engaged in sport, both for health, but also for future revenue generation for these teams. And then esports, I'd love to have a discussion about whether you think esports is a sport, but it's competitive, it requires training, there's commercial elements, everything that applies to a regular sports team applies to an esports team and organization. And there's lots of positions in esports organizations now. I've had people move from traditional sports that were selling sponsorship or selling tickets or managing merchandise. Now they're hired for esports teams, and vice versa. People who have started with esports have been poached and now are working for traditional teams. So this is definitely an area that I encourage my people, my students to look at. And we have a class on the business of esports at GW. And then you always have to stay on top of new trends. So there's skateboarding, rock climbing, 3-on-3, surfing were the new sports in Tokyo. And for Paris, you're going to have breakdancing is the new discipline that's coming in. For Winter Games, at the taxi ride that you saw me coming, I was escorting the two mountaineer. It's called ski mountaineering, and that is a new discipline, a new sport for the 2026 Winter Olympic Games in Cortina and Milano. So there's always evolving sports that require an organization, events, revenue generation, athlete management. So if you have interest in sports management, there's lots of different opportunities. Pickleball, I'm not sure if you are familiar with pickleball, but that's the fastest growing sport now in the United States. And it's played on a tennis court, but smaller. And it started as like older people were playing it, seniors. And now there's all these young people. So it's quite the new sport, at least in the United States. Next. And then this is not so much on the money side, show me the money, but it is something that I do think we all need to discuss is athlete health, because it's becoming a priority amongst teams and organizations to take better care of our athletes. Obviously, you've heard or probably seen the whole discussion around the young phenom figure skater from Russia who is caught in, many people are saying it's abuse because she's in a system that is not protecting her and is, and then the way the coach treated her after she fell last night, many people saw, and it wasn't a good, comforting, supportive system around her. So there's concerns about that. And next. And then, what drives unethical behavior? And there's lots of challenges in growing sports, especially in countries where ethics is not always held at a high level. And even in the Olympic circles, money plays a large part. Once they get a taste of money, then they start kind of getting corrupt. Elections are all about how do you pay off people. And then I think it's a lot of lack of education and penalties. So we do try to make sure people who come to our program understand why ethics and good governance is important. For example, Chinese Soccer League has tried to launch and be successful this is their third attempt at growing a big soccer league. The other two times that it's tried to develop, they always had scandals, and then sponsors pull out because of the scandals and they have to kind of start back over again. So I just like to bring that topic up. And I think that is it. And you've already heard about our MS in sports and the MBA with the concentration in sports management, both offered at George Washington University. We also have a sport philanthropy certificate program, but that's a non-degree program. And that's using sport for social good. So just wanted to make sure you knew all of our offerings, and happy to take questions now.
Perfect. Great. Thank you, Dr. Neirotti. Thank you for this insightful session. And I know you have had a busy day running around. There have been a lot of things happening. Thank you for taking out the time to do this. We are going to take some audience questions. So to the audience, if you have any questions for Dr. Narotti or for Susan, post them in the Q&A box, and I'm going to pick up the relevant ones. You can also upvote others' questions. So if you think a question is particularly relevant, you really want to know an answer to that, you can also upvote that question, and that would highlight it for us to pick up as well. And we would know that is a relevant question to be asked. Now, I think you have touched upon the opportunities in sports management already, but there was this question that had come at the beginning of your presentation about what can the candidates expect in terms of opportunities in sports management, and what would be their salary expectations, especially in the United States.
Right. So I always say that salaries are low at the beginning. Well, it depends on what background and what qualities you bring, what skill sets you bring to the table with your experience in sports management. So if you already are working as an accountant or a financier, and then you have sports on top of that, you can come in as a higher person. But if you are just starting out, then it's usually, let's just say 50 to 60,000. And then you have to, I say, work 3 years before you get into a higher bracket of management. But once you start getting in the higher bracket of management, then your salaries grow exponentially. So if you can hold on and get in and work 3 years, then you usually come in a little bit lower than maybe some of your other colleagues coming out of business school, but then you surpass your colleagues because there's a exponential jump for people who have experience and have gone past the 3 to 5 year mark.
All right. So like any other industry, you start at a lower level, but there's scope to grow and earn quite a bit. I'm sure our audience have watched a lot of movies, including Moneyball and others, which have covered sports management in detail, and possibly understand the scale and scope about the money that is there to make in this particular discipline. So I think Yashdeep had asked that question. So thank you, Yashdeep, for bringing out that question. I'm going to take another question. This is from Chatur Gimbali. He's asking if the Masters in Sports Management at GWSB, is it a STEM accredited program or if it is not? Susan,
right now, right now it is not a STEM accredited. Susan, you want to take this one?
Yeah, happy to. Right now, the Master's of Science in Sports Management degree is not a STEM designated program. However, many of our other programs are, and if that's something that is particularly of interest to you, there are opportunities to do an MBA with a concentration in sports management as well. That can be potentially tied together. It gets a little bit complicated with credits and electives and things like that. But like I mentioned before, many of our other programs, business analytics, things like that may tie in, you might be able to tie it into the sports management side of things, are currently STEM designated.
So Susan, is it possible for a student to do a dual specialization? So do two programs overlapping with each other or concurrently so as to get a STEM designated program plus the MS in sports management? Is that an option?
So that's a great question. We do have a joint degree with our MBA and our sports management program, which is incredibly popular and really fascinating. We actually have a lot of our students who start as sports management and then tag on the joint degree, and then quite a bit of other students who start as MBAs and then tag on the sports management degree. So it's a great joint degree there. It does get a little bit sticky with how the STEM credits have to work for that. So if anybody is interested in that, please reach out to that email that I provided to you earlier, because we'd have to kind of talk through. Generally speaking, there are specific electives that you have to take within the MBA in order for it to be the STEM track. And that can cause some complications when you're tagging in a joint degree where many of the classes may not be STEM designated.
All right, thanks for that. So to the audience, I'm going to take more questions for Susan and Dr. Narotti as well. But before I do that, I'm going to run my second poll for the evening. I see more questions have come in, but it would be great before we take those questions, if you can respond to the second poll. Please let us know which program are you most interested in. So these are programs which are offered by George Washington University School of Business. There are various options. There's Masters of Accountancy, there's MS in Sports Management, MS in Business Analytics, Finance, Human Resource Management, Information Systems, Interdisciplinary Business Systems, International Business, and more. So check out the options. Let us know the program that you're most interested in. Right? I'm going to keep this poll open for another 5 to 10 seconds. Please let us know which program you're most interested in. In the meanwhile, those of you who have further questions, please post those questions in the Q&A box. And those of you who find those questions relevant, please upvote those questions so I'll know which are the relevant questions to pick up for asking to Susan and Dr. Narotti over here. All right, so I see the responses coming in. I'm going to keep this open for another 5 seconds. So if you haven't yet responded, please do. Please respond to this poll and let us know which program at GWSB are you most interested in. Okay, I see a lot of responses have come in. Okay, I see the responses are still coming in, and I see a lot of interesting questions have come in as well. There are 10 open questions for me. So I'm going to pick up the relevant ones post this poll. So please respond to this poll as soon as you can so that we can go to those interesting questions and pick those up. And with that, I'm going to end this poll, and I'm going to just share the results for a quick second for the audience to know as well. Given that our topic for the evening is sports management, the maximum responses are for sports management. So almost 44% of the audience are looking for the MS in sports management program. And I'm sure they have a lot of questions around it, followed by programs in information technology, business analytics, finance, international business, project management, and so on and so forth. So great. Thank you for being such a kind and grateful audience. Thank you for responding to this poll. Okay, I think now I'm going to go back to Dr. Narotti and ask a lot of questions to her and to Susan. So the next question is about the placement assistance provided by GWSB for those pursuing the program in sports management. So how does the school facilitate career opportunities for the graduates? And this could be across MS programs, so it could be for sports management and other programs as well, but the career services at GWSB.
I mean, I spend a lot of my time helping students get placed. So this is my actually 31st year at GW, and I have global connections. And so students who want a job in sports can get a job. Some students decide, they want to do something else. So we've had very good success rate at ensuring that our students who want a position in sports get one.
All right. Dr. Neirotti, since you have, sorry, I'm going to ask, I think Susan, you wanted to say something, but I'm going to add on a question to this same question. Have you seen a lot of Indian students in the past? And do you remember any alumni from various years who have gone on to make it big in the domain of sports management?
Well, we have, some that work for the NBA. We have one working for Special Olympics International. She's heading to Germany shortly for the global games. We have somebody working for George Washington University athletics. They decided to stay and work there. So those are just a few that come to mind. So we usually have, it's been growing, usually about 3. Another one's working for the A10 basketball conference. He's doing data analytics. I'm trying to think off the top. Another one's in tennis. So he's been working with a local club. So those are just some examples.
That's great. And Susan, please go ahead. You were telling about the career services, career support at GW. That would be great to hear.
Yeah, I was just going to say, speaking from student perspective, we talk to a lot of students in the department, and anytime someone says they're interested in the sports management program, I get so excited because this is one of my favorite programs to talk to students about. I think the students who come into this program are so passionate, and they receive so much support, not only from Dr. Narotti. She's been here, like she said, for like 30 years, and her connections are unsurpassable in the US when it comes to helping with student placement and engagement. The students have to work hard. And I will say that, you have to want to get a job, you have to take advice, but the support that comes around you in this program in order to secure your opportunities for that career postgraduate are there. And they're there in network, they're there in your education, they're there in your internship or work opportunities when you're a student. And so, this is a program when students ask that question, I'm always like she said, if you want a job coming out of this program, you are your only limitation, because there are so many opportunities if you put in the work. You listen to your professors, and you take advantage of all the opportunities the programs have. When it comes to our other master's degree programs too, there's great support and services. Some of that comes from our career services department. So we have an in-house career services department just for our School of Business that works with students in different areas where they're looking to secure, job opportunities postgraduate. I think this is one of the most hands-on programs, though, when it comes to faculty support and networking, though. And so like I said, I always get excited when students are interested in sports management because there's so many interesting opportunities.
So as soon as I land back in the United States, we're holding the Sports Industry Networking and Career Conference. You can feel free to look it up. It's SINCconference.com. So you can put that in the chat there. SINCconference.com. So that's one that our students go to. They actually put it on. Luckily, I've got some great, capable students right now, since I've been away 3 weeks, that are really pushing this conference forward right now.
All right. Susan, there's a question on the fees for the program. So how much can the students expect to pay? And what is the intake for the MS in Sports Management cohort? How many students do you admit in a year?
Yeah, so typically our new tuition rates for fall 22 are scheduled to be released shortly. But generally speaking, for the past year, it was about $1,879 per credit hour. So some of our master's programs are 30 credits, some are 33, some are 36 credit hours. Our MBAs are 48 or 52, I believe. So it depends on which programs you're looking at as far as the cost of the program. In total, please reach out to our department. Happy to go over the new tuition rates. Like I said, I think they're scheduled to be released this week or next week, and we can talk about total costs and fees there. The one thing I would like to mention is that at GWSB, we actually do merit-based scholarships as well. So when a student comes through our application, you're automatically considered for scholarship and funding opportunities, which many of our students receive. It's not guaranteed, but we do review students holistically. So you don't have to put forth additional applications for scholarshiping in different areas. You're considered all at once for different funding and scholarship opportunities. Oh, and as far as about the size of the class, we typically have around total per year, about 50.
It's 50, yeah. So it's 50 in your core courses. So, and then we have elective courses that are typically half that size. So it just, like we offer, as I said, the business of esports, or we offer, analytics. So we have the 𝗀𝗃𝗂𝗁𝗁 class. So it's a sports finance 𝗀𝗃𝗁𝗁 class. We offer the business of basketball. We're going to look at analytics of basketball, looking at business of soccer. I'm hoping that we're all going to go to the World Cup in November. So normally I take students. I know with FIFA, we've had to delay the announcement of any overseas trip for students, but hopefully when I get back, we can start working on that.
All right, that's wonderful to hear. And what is the criteria that you look for? So before admitting students to especially MS in sports management, what kind of backgrounds do you look for? And Susan, if you can also touch upon a little bit of the admission criteria for the other programs, that would be great. So Dr. Neirotti, if you want to go first,
when I look at an applicant, ideally we'd like to see that they've done something, volunteered for some sports organization or done something, but that's not a requirement. We are very open. Somebody who's done, well in undergrad, seems in their statement of purpose that they, why they're interested in pursuing a degree in sports management. That's what I look for. I want somebody that's passionate and has shown that they are capable of, being good students and showing up and doing assignments. And that's what I want.
And how important is the GPA, the CGPA in your evaluation? Does the previous CGPA matter?
Well, I use it as a benchmark to see, usually if you have a good GPA in undergrad, you're going to be a good student in grad school. If you have a lower GPA in undergrad, it's important for you to address that and explain why. And we do take that in consideration, especially if you've been out of school for a while, because maybe you just were not mature or you didn't think that class was important. So we get that. But if most of your classes you did not perform above average, we worry about whether you're going to put the time and effort into our classes, because we want everybody to succeed. And that means you have to put the time and effort into it.
And does it matter which undergraduate stream they come from? So engineers, non-engineers, everyone, your commerce, arts, all graduates are most welcome. Is that the case?
Right. All graduates welcome. And I do look, like if you're an engineering student, I realize those courses are really much more, sometimes those courses may be more challenging than other courses. So, that's where I would say the GPA, I would take a look at what also your degree was and put that into consideration.
Sure. And Susan, this was specifically for the sports management program, but the other MS programs at GWSP, do you require a Gmat GRE for any of those? And what is the broad criteria, admission criteria that you look at?
Yeah, so we take a holistic approach to all of our reviews. So there's no one factor that's going to be the end all be all of everything. We're looking for strong GPA and academic performance, as Dr. Neirotti mentioned before. You know, we want to see that you were able to meet certain academic thresholds, but then on occasion, we do have students who need to talk about extenuating circumstances that may have came up, you know, in their undergrad. I would say GMAT and GRE are optional right now across all of our programs, as they have been for many universities in the US since COVID has happened. I will say, if you're looking to boost your application, or maybe if you didn't take very many quant courses in undergrad, or your undergrad GPA isn't as strong, it's a good way to kind of show a second proof point of your ability to do well in the quantitative area or the English area, as an additional kind of proof point in your application. We want to see, you know, good recommendations coming from professional recommendations, whether it's from your former professors or your employers. If you do have work experience, that's always really great to see. So strong resumes that are written professionally, and a passion for and an understanding of the program that you're looking to apply to. You know, Dr. Neirotti mentioned, like, they want to see that you really have an understanding and a purposeful interest in the program. That's the same across the board for all of our programs. You know, when you go into undergrad, very often you may not have an idea of exactly what career outcome you're looking for, or exactly what you're going to do, or you may, you know, you grow mentally and you may change your mind. However, when you get to your graduate course of study, you know, a lot of times you're paying for this. It's on you to make sure that you're studying. It's not always as much on your parents to be pushing you to perform well. And we want to see mature folks coming into the program that understand the outcomes for these programs are also going to be equal to the amount of work and effort that they're putting forth. And so we want them to be responsible. We want them to work hard, and then we will provide all the wraparound support for that. But it's really a holistic process to just make sure we're bringing in students that can successfully complete the program and successfully find great career outcomes afterwards.
Awesome.
And to put a number on it, like 3.0 is, we'll make exceptions under 3.0, but we try to keep at least a 3.0.
Okay, that's good to hear. And since we are in the last few minutes of the session, we are already over time, but I still want to take a few more questions, so I'm going to do that. But before we get into those, what are the next deadlines? So Susan, if someone is targeting the 2022 intake, by when they should latest submit their application?
March 15th is our next deadline.
So 15th of March, so it's slightly less than a month away now. So those of you who are targeting the 2022 intake, do keep this deadline in mind. 15th of March is the next deadline. So if you're looking to submit an application, this is your opportunity.
We'll also be providing, Sanjay, an application fee waiver code for attendees of this session that I'll get over to you all, that you can share out with the folks that registered or that attended today.
Perfect. So we will send out an email or a WhatsApp message to all of you with the waiver code. So if you are looking to make an application, use that application fee waiver code. That would help you just save you some dollars and get an application in time as well. Dr. Neirotti, I'm going to take the last question from Yashdeep. 3 people have voted this one, so I'm sure there's some interest around this question as well. Yashdeep is asking, can he become a sports agent or a football analyst by pursuing a MS in sports management? Are there opportunities?
Well, I mean, anything. Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. I don't know your background. I don't know your skill sets. I mean, so, to be an agent, you have to know athletes. You have to know the sport. Well, you don't even need to know the sport so much as you need to know how to negotiate and how, we're going to give you those tools, but you need to find your path of, like, do you know an athlete? Do you have a network? We can introduce you and have you work underneath an agent, but athlete representation is primarily, you have to go find athletes to work with.
And you have to put up with their tantrums as well, just a heads up, right?
What was that?
They have to put up with the sports, the sportsman's tantrums, and be the next person,
Yeah,
right? I mean, they have to be their counsel, parent, everything in one, right?
You're a glorified babysitter, and just remember, there's more agents out there than there are players.
Yes.
So in the United States, there's more agents that are certified than there are players looking for agents. But that doesn't mean you can't be one, because I know there's a need for qualified agents in other parts of the world. I'm sharing what's happening in the United States. And I think if you are a professional, ethical person, there's roles for you, you know, in India and other parts of the world. So, you know, we'll give you that education. We'll give you some introductions, but ethically, I can't promise that you could be an agent, because agents, there's not that many of them.
Fair. And Dr. Neirotti, a side question over here. So some of the audience want to play it safe. Their question is, if they pursue, let's say, a MS in marketing or a MS in management, can they still segue into the sports management industry post their education? Or if they are looking to make a career in sports management, they need to be focused and only look at the MS in sports management program.
Right. I mean, you need to take, I always say it takes education, experience, and network. And so that's what we provide at GW. You get all three of those. So whether you're taking like what we call it, a graduate certificate at George Washington, if you do an MS in marketing, or you do the MBA program, but then take the at least, you know, 4 of our core courses in sports management, that's going to give you at least the background, and then you'll, you know, I'll know you from taking those courses, so you can help get the network. You know, wherever you go, make sure that your professors are connected. And, you know, I think that's our unique selling point, is that we offer unique experiences. I just had 22 students out at Super Bowl working. They would have been here working at the Olympic Games if it wasn't for COVID. And then, you know, we get you out into the workplace, and all of our classes, our assignments are, sorry, it's late here. They're very practical. So we work with real clients and get you practical experience.
Great. On that note, I know it's around 11:30 in Beijing now, so it's really late over there. I am going to wrap up this session now, as it is over time. I know the audience have missed answering a few questions. I couldn't pick those up. There are just so many of those questions out there. But I hope you found this session extremely insightful, extremely useful, and gave you perspective on an evolving, growing industry, not just in India, but across the globe. So I'm going to thank Dr. Narotti and Susan for taking out the time to do this session. Dr. Narotti, if you have any parting words, Susan, if you have any parting words, please do share. Our audience would be happy to hear your words as well.
Right. I just am scrolling through some of the questions. And, you know, engineers, we love engineers. You're hardworking, you're analytical. I've had great success with engineers that have come into the program. But I'm happy to answer any questions. You know, look at the SYNC conference if you're interested in joining that program. And we just would love to have you in our program, or, you know, to help you out. So let me know if you have any questions, and we can go from there.
Sure. For their questions, can they write to the admissions email address at GWSB, and those can possibly be forwarded to you as well?
Yes.
Perfect. Great. Susan, if you want to share the email address that they can write to, that would be great. If you can just put it in the chat box, the audience would get it. And with that note, let me wrap up this session. I don't want to keep you away from the bed, the comfort of a bed anymore. And thank you for taking out the time. It's been a pleasure hosting you. And the audience, I'm sure, have really enjoyed hearing your feedback and live experiences from Beijing. So thank you again for taking out the time to do this session. I'm sure the audience found it extremely insightful.
Right. And Yashdeep, I don't know what your question was. I just want to make sure.
We took it up. We took it up.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
Thank you all so much for having us. Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks, everyone. It was great to meet you all.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you to the audience as well. Thank you for being so patient. We still have around 170 still in the audience for waiting for us to wrap up. So that really tells us of the interest. So thank you for being such a patient audience. Thank you for listening through, and thank you to both of you for taking out the time to do this interaction. Have a good night. Have a good day in US, and take care and enjoy the Olympics.
Right, thank you. Oh, thank you. Almost done. See ya. Bye.